And then we can wait for people to join. Couple minutes. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. I'm just testing to see if we have audio. We can wait for people to join. And then we'll wait for a few more people to pop in at 6 o'clock. That'll be great. If you want to, you can put in the chat whether you can hear me or not. Hello, everybody. Fine, but just want to check the audio. We're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and testing to see if we have audio. We can wait for people to join. And then we'll wait for a few more people to pop in at 6 o'clock. That'll be great. If you want to, you can put in the chat whether you can hear me or not. Hello, everybody. Fine, but just want to check the audio. We're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and testing to see if we have audio. We can wait for people to join. And then we'll wait for a few more people to pop in at 6 o'clock. That'll be great. If you want to, you can put in the chat whether you can hear me or not. Hello, everybody. Fine, but just want to check the audio. We're gonna get started here in a couple minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and testing to see if we have audio. We can wait for people to join. And then we'll wait for a few more people to pop in at 6 o'clock. That'll be great. Cool. Do you have it pulled up right there? Yeah. Because they say they can hear me twice. Yeah. That is interesting.
What's your audio preferences in Logic?
Let's see.
Oh yeah, see you got good on you. You got input 1 enabled on that track. If you just take off the input 1, it should be fine.
Yeah. Or like your output might have to be.
I stare at Logic like 8 hours a day.
Wait, are you talking about right here?
That's your thing. That's my job, yeah. Or my work, yeah. My job.
Oh, it's better now.
Is it a job?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you guys can hear me just once now?
Yes, it is a job. Yeah. Hire myself and fire myself every day. 5 o'clock.
Can you hear?
Alright,
on
you're
your
off,
end?
Kenji. We're out of here. Get out. Go home. Go home.
Yeah, just let me know in the chat if you can hear me just once.
Hey, learning.
Okay.
Got a lot of tech things to figure out. It's exciting.
Cool. Well, we will go ahead and get started then. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I've got some people in person. I appreciate you guys being here. This is really amazing, and for you guys joining online, I appreciate you coming too. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited to share this song with you. The story of Lot is a very interesting story. He's a character that I think is overshadowed by Abraham in many ways. We only get like bits and pieces of his story. And when we do hear his story, it's usually Abraham saving Lot. For instance, in Genesis 14, Abraham rescues Lot from King Chedorlaomer. Took practice to get that name. He's basically a king who's associated with 3 other kings. So there's 4 total, and they're battling against 5 kings, including the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and 3 other kingdoms. So at the end of the day, Lot is taken captive, and Abraham goes and rescues him, which is pretty cool. We see it again in Genesis 18, where where Abraham is pleading with God to save the people of Sodom. And you may know the story where he says, if there are 50 men who are righteous in the city of Sodom, will you spare it? And God says, for the sake of 50, I will spare it. And so there's almost a negotiation that happens after this point where Abraham is like, okay, well, what about 35? What about 20? What about 10? And God says, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. We later find out that there's not even 10 people who are righteous in Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's just Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters who flee from Sodom and Gomorrah initially. So yeah, what do we know about Lot? So we know that he had a role in Sodom. He was a righteous man in the midst of an ungodly people. So he was also prominent. He was a prominent man at the city gate of Sodom. So he had an important role, which is interesting. He was very intertwined in the community. and yet he's called righteous, which is it's a really interesting dynamic being a righteous person in a setting like that. So we know that there's an encounter from the Bible. So 2 men visited Lot, who we later find out are angels, and they told him to flee because it wasn't safe. God was going to destroy it. He was going to destroy the city for their wickedness. And here's where it gets interesting. There's a dilemma. Lot has a dilemma. So we know that he was conflicted because in Genesis 19:16 it says he lingered. He's thinking about what he has, his role in the city, what he's established in that place. We see earlier in Genesis that the land was beautiful to the eye. So the fact that he's fleeing from his home is definitely going to bring up some emotions. So yeah, he was comfortable at home and he didn't understand the seriousness of the situation. And yet the Bible says his soul was tormented by the lawless deeds that he saw and heard on a daily basis. And we get this from 2 Peter 2:8. So I think the most important thing from this story is the fact that God is merciful. That's what stands out to me. Lot lingered, but the angel seized him and brought him out of the city. This tells us something about God. He's merciful and he won't let the righteous be destroyed along with the wicked, but he graciously rescues those who trust in him. And this is kind of further expounding what we saw from Abraham's story of begging for the salvation of Sodom. We see that even if there's 3 people, Lot and his 2 daughters, like he's going to save them from the wickedness. So going into the inspiration of what made me write the song, I think just an interest in the story is one of the things that really inspired me. So believe it or not, I wrote this song about 2.5 years ago when I still lived in Lynchburg. I had just graduated from Liberty and I was playing along with chords on the piano and just going through the story in the Bible and was like, oh, Lot, that's a fascinating story. I should do a song. And I think what inspired me was the fact that this was the story of a man who lost everything. He lost everything he possessed. It doesn't really say how he felt about it, but it's obviously a traumatic event. And so it struck me, like, how did he respond emotionally? What was he thinking as he was getting ready to flee this place or contemplating staying? So, and furthermore, like, how would I respond in a situation like that? Would I leave everything comfortable to me to follow God? And I would like to say yes, but it's fascinating how things can pull you like that once you get comfortable with where you're living at life. But in one sense, while he lost everything, in another sense, he gained life and gained everything because he was saved from destruction. And so I wanted to create this song from his perspective, capturing his thoughts and his emotions during this traumatic event. So yeah, I think, again, the most important thing about this song is God's mercy and how that's shown in this story. So we are going to get into this. Hey, Landon and Sarah, glad you guys can make it. Good to check in at the chat. So and after I play the song, I'm going to open up for questions after I talk a little bit about the project. So if you want to be thinking about questions you have, do that because it'll be great. Okay, so we are going to jump in here and listen to the song. me. I sit at the city gate. I've got a wife and a family, and I'm playing it safe. Two men came to see me, said I had to go away. Said the righteous are no more, said I could not stay away. Oh, flee from this place, safe, you aren't safe to remain. Come take your wife, your daughters, your family, get them away, get escape to the valley. Stop with your lingering, I can try reasoning, get to the hills. I know I must go, but my heart's held captive. My roots were deep and the land was attractive. Now I am running, my family's coming, but my wife looked back. I lost all that day, my wife and the name I made. All my possessions are swept away, they are all gone away. Oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. I was distressed by the godless, from the filth of the lawless men. But I was rescued by the Holy One, and now I'm safe away. Oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Oh, saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Gone away, oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Oh, saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Thank you very much. And so there it is. There is Lot. I was actually, Wayne is somebody who's here today. I was talking with him not too long ago, and he told me something very interesting, that the correct pronunciation is actually Lot. So kind of like Job in the Bible is Job and not Job, the correct pronunciation is Lot and not Lot. But typically in our culture, we call it Lot. But yeah, that I thought was very interesting tidbit. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this session file. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the comments. If you guys have questions here, feel free to ask away. But yeah, something you might have noticed is I use Latin lyrics. So at the beginning, the words that you're hearing, let me pull them up here. Apportet te fugere, correre, which means you must run, flee. And then at the end, you hear liberavit me de morte, which means he saved me from death. So I'm kind of carrying along a theme from Only Believe, which was the last song that I streamed. This song had Latin in it, so I kind of wanted to continue that because I thought it would be fun. And so I was looking up letters and words to see, like, how do you actually pronounce this word? At one point, I found a YouTube video that used apportet in the song. Like, it was some, like, choral Latin work. And so I was like, okay, figured out how to say it. So it was like a lot of research that it took me quite a bit longer than I expected it to, but But it was fun digging into that. At one point, I enjoyed that like a little more than actually writing the song, just because it was something nerdy. But yeah, that was cool. I was also inspired by How to Train Your Dragon. That is, as you might be able to tell, one of my favorite soundtracks because I bought the full conductor's score. So what I did is I used the instrumentation and a lot of the rhythmic elements in the opening sequence. So yeah, Elian pipes. It's I guess a Celtic instrument. I used that, which you hear at the beginning. That's like the main melody just after the intro. And then I use a string and piano rhythmic pulse, and it's in 12/8, so that's also kind of inspired from How to Train Your Dragon. So I poured over the score to kind of get an idea how to write this, because I wanted it to be a similar style. I also do film composing, so to merge film scoring and songwriting together in some way, you get dramatic storytelling, like the story of Lot. So yeah, and then I used a lot of brass to lead into each new section, just to build suspense and create more depth, which was a fun process. All right. Influences of Hans Zimmer, perchance, says Carolyn Harrison. I would say John Powell. He's a really big inspiration to me. He's the guy who did the How to Train Your Dragon score. So that's where I took a lot of influence. So yeah, I'm going to play you the flute. I actually recorded myself playing the flute on this, which was fun. I used both instruments, synthetic instruments, as well as some recorded samples of myself, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I will go ahead and solo this because I want to show you the flutter tongue. All right, and I'll play that in context as well so you can kind of hear it. So I like adding techniques like that whenever I can to make it sound more human. Because when you can make a song sound more human, that's when it really thrives, in my opinion. So yeah, questions from here? Yes.
Did you record any other instruments besides your voice and flute, or are those the two ones that you mostly did?
Did I record anything besides my voice and flute? That was pretty much it. For this one, I only recorded flute and piano. Oh, sorry, flute and choir. But I will say I used a sample for piano, which I can play. I call it my glass keyboard. And I mentioned this, I think, in previous live streams, but what I did is I got a chopstick and hit it on a wine glass and then sampled that within Logic, my DAW. And then based on that, I made it into like go the full length of the keyboard so that I could like basically play a piano. And then I layered that with a piano in Logic. So I'll play that for you. It's pretty cool. Yes. Dave says I created a new instrument, and that's another thing that I think is super cool, because when you can again bring that human element, you can create sounds that are unique to you, and sounds that nobody's heard before, which makes the piece pretty interesting. All right, we've got a question from Haley Harrison. Do you have plans to release an instrumental version? I think that's a great idea. Very possibly. Yeah, I think I might consider doing that for sure. I think that would be cool. And then from Landon, why did you decide to use Latin for this song and others? Forgive me if you said it and missed it. Said so and I missed it. That's a great question. I think Latin's cool. I think that's the best way I can say it. Greek is, I guess, hard. So is Hebrew, which I guess those would make a little more sense. But from my perspective, it was like challenging to do that. And then Latin was like, it sounds, it has a really cool sound to it. So it's got that like archaic nature that you don't really understand the words that are said, but it sounds really cool. So I guess I might have taken inspiration from Lord of the Rings. Not that it uses Latin, but just having the epic choir saying words that are not English makes it intriguing, in my opinion. Yes, Kenji.
What are you most proud of in this song?
Oh, that's a great question. What am I most proud of in this song? I would say the bridge. I didn't initially have this song including a bridge, but I felt that it wasn't telling the full story. So I'll play the bridge again because I think this will be cool for context. Take your wife, your daughters, your family, get them awake and escape through the valley. Stop with your lingering, I can try reasoning, get to the hills. I know I must go, but my heart's held captive. My roots were deep and the land was attractive. Now I am running, my family's coming, but my wife looked back. So yeah, I felt like I wasn't quite covering the full emotions of what he's dealing with. And I had written this song 2.5 years ago, and when I came back to it within the past year, I realized there was more to the story to tell. So the angels are saying, get up, take your wife, your family, your daughters, get them awake, and escape through the valley. Stop lingering and contrived reasoning, because he's dealing with these thoughts in his head that are conflicting what God's telling him. So yeah, it's like, it's very interesting to include that. And then it kind of goes into Lot's actual thoughts during this time. I know I must go, but my heart's held captive. My roots were deep and the land was attractive. So what I did at this point is I went back through the scripture and I read like all the events leading up to this point. So the part where Abraham and Lot separate and go on their own ways, and Lot specifically chooses the land that's really attractive. So I wanted to include like some of the backstory on this whole scene. So yeah, and his roots were deep. He had become established. The land was attractive, but in the end he decides to go. So now I'm running, my family's coming, but his wife looked back. And we know from the story that his wife turned into a pillar of salt, which is crazy because not only did he lose all his possessions, but he also lost his wife, which is, I can't fathom that. It's insane. So yeah. Yeah. What's up?
So, did you score this? Did you write out the score for it? And then, how did you record it? Did you record like a piano vocal and then put all the instruments, or did you build it instrument at a time?
That's a great question from Sam. So he had a question about how I wrote this piece, whether it's notated out, and kind of what my process was for going from the like ground zero to where the production is now. So what I typically do is I'll make a scratch track of just piano and vocals, which is basically what I did for this one. So I played a piano sample library on my computer, and then once I had that finished, I sang vocals over that, and then I used that, and I started composing this last year, and I added like some strings, but I wasn't completely happy with it. So after that, I kind of went at it a little more intentionally. So I spent a lot of time on each individual section. So yeah, I started with the introduction and kind of honed that in, added the strings and then the brass and then the percussion until I had like the full sound I was going for. And oftentimes when I'm doing a song like this, if I have the introduction with all the instrumentation that I want, that gives me like an idea of what it needs to sound like throughout the remainder of the song to keep it cohesive and sounding the same. So that's kind of my process. I'll start with the scratch track and then expound on it. But no, I don't have sheet music yet, but it's something that I've considered doing, getting like the full sheet music and then making a video on YouTube like that kind of flips through it to show you all the notes. So that might be helpful. All right. I hope that answers your question. Cool, sweet. All right, Michelle Jakewith has a question. When I hear the line, "But my wife looked back," makes me wonder how that affected Lot emotionally. I love that you're doing the vocals. Very good. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't fathom losing a spouse, and we don't really know what Lot is feeling emotionally, but we do know it's traumatic, and we know he's wrestling with the thoughts that while he has been saved, he's also lost everything. So it's very interesting to see the two sides of that. Hey, Christine. Thanks for tuning in.
Question.
Yes.
Are you going to do one about Abraham?
I have considered it.
That was pretty amazing. And I was thinking, yeah, I'd love to hear, Abraham's voice in the midst of all that. That's really neat.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of content that could go into to making a song or even a musical about Abraham. There's just so many things that are fascinating about his story too. So yeah, I've considered doing the stories of a lot of different characters from the Old Testament, and that's really what I'm trying to do with my songwriting. Is I'm trying to tell stories that create an impact and share about people's lives. And up until this point, it's been mostly about biblical characters. I might expand that and go to other historical characters, but for now, I've been focusing on biblical characters. So it's been cool. But yeah, I could definitely see myself doing some more biblical characters. So yeah, great question, Dave. And Jennifer has a question. How many choir parts do you have? Yeah, very great question. Let me pull up the session. You can see this on the live stream, and I have it on the TV here at the house. So I recorded all these parts myself. So I did the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And I was planning to do 15 parts of each, so there should be 60, but I missed one with my tenor, so they're a little underrepresented. They only have 14 voices. So it is a 59-part choir.
Still a 10 out of 10.
Kenji's cracking the jokes here.
For the soprano parts, did you actually sing falsetto or did you pitch bend?
That's a really good question. So what I did is I used my falsetto voice. Isabel asked if I used falsetto or if I sang the parts really high. For most of them, I sang falsetto because I can't hit those really high notes.
Channeled your
But-
Michael Jackson.
Dave says I channeled my Michael Jackson. Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a process. It was a lot of fun. I think I'm biased to the tenors, even though it doesn't seem like that. 14 voices. But that's probably my ideal range. So I can hit the notes how I want them, and they come out the clearest. But it is in a choral context. So the cool thing about that is if you are singing part by part, you don't have to be necessarily exactly on tune all the time. You can leave some room for one voice to be sharp, one voice to be flat, because it'll equal out, and it also gives more depth to the choir. So the cool thing about a choir is you have multiple different voices, and so that gives a blend of voices that makes it sound full and realistic to a choir. So to sing with different tunings or different inflections in my voice, that can help create that fuller sound. So yeah, great question. Yes, Kenji.
Is there anything you learned while producing this song that you are planning to take to the next song moving forward?
Cool. Kenji asked a great question. Is there anything that I learned about this project that I'm going to utilize in my next release? I did learn quite a bit. A lot of things Kenji actually helped me with. So what I did is I bought the Cinematic Studio Brass sound library, and that was something new for this release, which before then I was using a different library, but yeah, just using these fresh brass instruments, a new improved sample library, I think really added to the realistic sounding nature of the song. I didn't use the brass in previous songs to lead in from like one phrase to another, so that's something I learned. When I'm singing vocals, like when I have a break in the vocals, that's when the instrumentation can really come in and lead into the next thing. So I use the brass a lot for that. So when I ended a phrase with my voice, the brass kind of led into the next phrase. So that kind of adds to the musical clarity, I guess. So I can play an example of that here. Gone, gone, are all gone away. Oh, I fled from this place. Let's see. So yeah, this section right here, you can kind of hear that lead in. I use a mark tree here, so you hear the kind of silvery shimmer. That's kind of like the climax of where this brass and string choir lead into the next phrase. So yeah, listen for that. Way, oh, I fled from this place. Let's see, I am saved from what's laid waste. So yeah, that's one of the things I learned. Another thing that I'm implementing for my next song is my template. I've improved my template based on things that worked well, didn't work well. So for the choir, I have 15. Actually, I think I increased it to like a 120 voice choir for the next one. So I have like the audio tracks already loaded. And then I also adjusted the score order to match what you see in like an orchestral conductor score, like the How to Train Your Dragon one I showed. So yeah, you'll have the instruments in that order. So that just makes it easier for me to see what's happening in the session as it relates to how the music will be notated on the page. So that's another thing I learned. But the whole thing was a big learning process, and it was really fun to go into that. All right, let's answer some more questions here. Hey, Michael, glad you could tune in. Yeah, doing great. Hope you are too. Thanks so much for coming. Where are the flute parts? Says Jennifer. So the flute parts are highlighted in red, so I can show them easily. So yeah, let's look at those. I'll go ahead and solo them. These are all the samples that I recorded myself. So for that section, I layered that with a flute sample library. And that kind of filled it in. So let's see if I can add those in too. And so again, with those two different flute lines, you get a little more authenticity because you have like the flutes of the sample library in association with me playing the flute, and so it again makes it a little, makes it have a little more depth, a little more interest. That part right there was super hard to record, but I think it added a lot. If we listen to it in context, you can hear that flute line.
Now I'm safe away. Oh, I fled from this.
I'm going to go ahead and mute the vocals here. So you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like without the main vocals. I left the choir in there. So that's kind of, the voice is the most prominent, but the background adds the texture and the richness. All right. Yeah, the album cover, Landon, thanks, appreciate that. That was really fun to do. I used Canva, and it was really cool. I took a picture outside the house in the field, and then I cropped it so that you could only see the grass, and then I added the rocks and fire in the background. There's actually a reel on my Instagram page on like how I created that, which was a really fun process. So if you want to see that, go check out my Instagram reels. So yeah, that was really fun. Oh, Sarah says, I remember you said for the last song that you once ate a whole sleeve of saltine crackers for dinner while working on that song. Any interesting snacks you liked during this production? I appreciate this. I appreciate this comment. What were they called? They were like a gummy candy from Trader Joe's, and oh, it was so good. They were like kind of like Sour Patch Kids, just taken to the next level. They were so good. So yeah, I like sour candies, like chewy sour candies, and so I ate some of those. Yeah, I also had these chocolate covered pomegranate candies that you and Landon got me. So those are pretty tasty too. But yeah, I didn't eat a whole bag of saltines this time, unfortunately, although I did eat some. Cool. Did I miss any questions? Michael Tony's here. I'm glad you and Miss Tammy are listening. One at the end. All right, cool. Yeah, so glad you guys could make it. Alrighty, what link can I go to so I can hear the single as a whole? I missed the beginning. Yeah, I can. Let me drop that in the comments here. Yeah. If you want to, you can. Okay, I can. I'll do the YouTube one if you want to. Yeah. In the meantime, do people have other questions?
As a small business owner,
I have a request.
Yes.
Can we hear just the 59-part choir?
We certainly can. Isabel asks if we
I'm
can.
really curious what all the parts sound like.
Isabel asks if we can hear the full choir, and I will do that as soon as I drop this link in the comments here.
59 parts is quite impressive.
Cool. Yeah, there we go. All right, so yeah, you have that there for future listening. How do I know when a song is complete? I will delve into that right after I play the choir parts here. That's a great question.
Liberavit me demorte. Save, save what's laid waste. I saved what's laid waste. Liberavit me demorte. Save, save what's laid waste. I saved what's laid waste. Save to reap.
A lot of nuggets in this thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I honestly think the choir could have been a little louder, in my opinion. I guess that's tying into the how do you know when a song is complete. At some point, you just gotta say, okay, it's done. I'm producing it. I've been working on this for 5 years. It needs to get out there. Hopefully not 5 years. Exhaustion. I've been at it too long. Need to get it released. I've heard it said. Kenji actually told me this. He told me that you work on a song until it's at about 90%, and then the final 10% you could easily be working on it for 10 years or longer to get it perfect. So at some point you have to be okay with saying, okay, 95% is good, and that's what it's going to be. And it's at a place where I think it is excellent and it can go out there. Sure, I might have thought of other changes, but I realized with my last release, Only Believe, that I had put it off for so long, wanting it to be perfect, that I waited like 2 years to write it. Kind of similar thing happened with this song. I wrote it 2.5 years ago, and I was scared that when I released it, it wouldn't be perfect. So having this mentality has been super helpful for me. Is like, okay, it won't be perfect, but I can make it excellent, and I can do as good of a job on it as I can, possibly do, as good as I can reasonably do. And then at a certain point, you just have to release it and let people listen to it, because for me, it would be so sad for me to have all these song ideas that could help people, encourage people, but they never get out there because I want it to be perfect. Because the reality is, I don't think a song can ever necessarily be perfect in a fallen world. But I think there can be beautiful songs that point to God and encourage people. So yeah, that's my take on how do I know when a song is complete. So yeah, excellent question. I think we can probably listen to some more parts. So let's listen to the string section. Yes, what's up?
String library do you use?
What string library do I use? I use Cinematic Studio strings mostly. Yep. I've used Cinestrings in the past, but I really like how the Cinematic Studio strings sound. They sound really realistic to me, and so I love using those. So yeah, I want to start recording live string players eventually. Even adding like maybe one string player that'll give it a realistic sound, which is kind of cool. So I think that's definitely a goal for the long term, is to be able to record an orchestra. I think that would be fascinating. But as of now, I just use sample libraries. So recordings of people who have played each individual note on their instrument. And so I use those samples to create the song. But yeah, let's listen to that string section. I made all my possessions are. So the interesting thing about this is there are so many parts in this song that I would love for you guys to hear, and when it's all together, you can't necessarily pick out each individual part necessarily, but you can hear it in the full context, and that's what makes it the song it is. As you hear the depth, you might not hear one of the parts or several of the parts specifically. So that's why it's cool to like single out different instruments, because all of a sudden you get like more clarity on what actually comprises this song to make it what it is. You hear those individual parts. which is cool. And that's Haley. That's why it would be really cool to release an instrumental version of this, because the vocal part, the main vocal, is the main thing that you're listening to. That's the most important thing, is the message of this song, and the instruments kind of support that. But if you can like focus on just hearing the instruments, I think that would be really cool. I want to go back to this bridge real quick here, because there were some interesting things that happened. So I'm gonna play you just the vocals.
Uptick your wife, your daughters, your family. Get them awake and escape through the valley. Stop with your lingering and contrived reasoning. Get to the hills. I know I must go, but my heart's held captive. My roots were deep and the land was attractive. Now I am running, my family's coming, but my wife looked back.
So this is another thing I learned. Nolan Sorsby is here, and he was recommending some things with the vocals. It's where it basically has 4 lines when Lot is singing, and it kind of, I guess, dovetails. Like the phrase goes up, and when it comes down, the next phrase starts before the other one's finished. So you can kind of hear that where, and it kind of gives more clarity to the vocals. So now I'm running, like when the line, now I'm running, like by the time I'm saying the ing of running, the next line is starting, but my wife looked back. Another interesting thing I did is to differentiate who was talking, because initially in this bridge, the 2 angels are talking. So I had 2 voices that were panned on either side of the stereo mix. So yeah, so that way you can hear like 2 people saying you've got to go, because in the story it is the 2 angels who are saying you need to flee, and then after that it's just one voice because it's Lot responding, and so he's only the one voice in the center stereo, so that kind of gives it more depth, because otherwise my voice would sound the same, and it might be difficult to tell that there's 2 different parties speaking here. So
I just thought you wrapped the whole thing.
Isabel says, I thought you just rapped the whole thing. Yeah, I that was fun to do. I took inspiration from Hamilton. There's some orchestral rapping that I use, and then I also took inspiration from The Other Side from The Greatest Showman, which has I guess a similar chord structure. So musical theater works have really inspired this style of music that I'm writing. So yeah, and that's kind of where I'm wanting to take it, and I want it to be dramatic storytelling that's in a musical theater style. So orchestral musical theater. So yeah. All right, let's get to some more questions down here. Here we go. Thank you, Aunt Becky. I did, yes, I did sing all the parts. It was 59 recordings, and I set it up. What I can do is I can put it on loop in my session, so that's what this yellow bar is at the top, so I can select how long I want it to be. So for the choir, I can drag it like that, and then press record, and it starts at the beginning of the loop, and then once it finishes, it takes the recording, and then all I have to do is pause the recording, go down one more line, and then press R, which triggers the next recording. So that makes it pretty easy to just do one choir part after another, after another, after another. So that's definitely something I learned for this specific project. Because for Only Believe, I was really focused on making each part of the choir perfect, and in doing that, it layered the vocals so that it sounded like kind of like one voice. And so for this song, being able to just go really quick and not really worry about minor details or minor imperfections, I was able to zip through it a little more quickly, which was cool. For this one, I also did the choir parts after doing the full orchestral parts. So I think that's a better system for me, because for the previous song, I did the choir parts on the scratch track before I had done the instrumentation. And what I found is that just took a lot of time. And so I looked at my progress and thought I wasn't making it very far with the song. And it was kind of discouraging to realize I feel like I'm at the same place that I was last week or last 2 weeks. But with this, I could see progress a lot faster because I had finished the orchestral parts, which I can do a little faster than the choir parts. Although this new technique has really helped me develop those choir parts more quickly. But yeah, changing that order I think was pretty cool. Okay. Okay, how many hours did it take me? Oh man, how many hours did it take me? It's really good to keep track of your time, because that helps you know how fast you compose and how long a project will take you. So I have a budgeting spreadsheet that I am pulling up right now. Not budgeting, although I do have one of those. Oh man, spreadsheets are so helpful. I recommend them 10 out of 10. They keep your life, they keep track of your life. It's a weird way to say it. They help you keep track of your life. All right, let's see how long I spent on this project. Lot. I spent 66 hours and 31 minutes.
It's actually way less than I expected.
The last one, Only Believe, I spent 71 hours and 59 minutes. So, yep. So I'm getting faster. This is good.
Although that's probably not including all the time it took writing the lyrics over.
Jennifer does make a good point. It's not including all the time that I used to like conceptualize, get the words and the lyrics and the basic chords. So I'll oftentimes do that before I start logging my time, because I probably should include that time, but it's easier to not have pressure when I'm first starting a song. Oftentimes I'll be driving in my car and an idea will pop into my head, and I'll just develop that through the duration of me driving in the car. So what I consider the start of the project is when I have a roadmap roughly figured out of like the at least some verses, chorus, a bridge, an outro, an intro. And once I have that, that's when I'll start. I make chord charts so that I can keep track of where I am. These have been very helpful for, so I'll oftentimes include these, like I'll come up with chord charts, and that'll be like the start of the project. So it kind of helps me know what key I'm in, what the tempo is, what I need to be writing for string parts, so I don't like write it a half step off, or some weird chord. Although sometimes it is good to experiment and just play around, because you can come up with some pretty cool sounds that way. Alrighty, how long does it take to record the choir parts? It depends. I wonder if I have that in my spreadsheet. Let's see. Because I generally keep track of each individual thing I do for a project, whether it's recording brass, whether it's road mapping, which is basically figuring out the structure of the song, what that's going to be. It looks like I just included that in the orchestrating time. It probably, I want to say it takes a third or maybe a fourth of the overall time of the project. Hmm? Oh.
I think you already may have talked about that though.
Oh, how long does it take to record? Oh, each individual one. So yeah, I created a new system with this song, so I can get tracks done in probably, I want to say 20 to 30 seconds. Like with the system of recording, stopping it, using the cycle, and then going down to the next track. So, and it depends on the complexity of what I'm singing. So, so if it's a more complex vocal line, then it'll take a little longer. If you see this later, Jed, thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. And it's good to hear from you too. Carolyn Harrison says, "Yay, Hamilton!" Oh no, it's actually Haley. Haley says, "Yay, Hamilton!" Yeah, it's a great score. I love it. I've taken a liking to musicals recently. Alex, good to see you. Or I guess good to see your text. What originally inspired you to make a song about Lot? That's a great question. So I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream. I'm not sure if you're able to catch that, but a lot of it is just the fact of the intrigue of Lot. We know he is a man of standing at the city gate, and that he lives amongst wicked people, and God is about to destroy the city. And then I was just gripped by the fact that he had a comfortable life. He was sitting at a prominent position in the city. Everything seemed to be going fine with him, though he was tormented by the lawless deeds around him. But to be told to get up and flee and leave everything that you had known, that was just a story that needed to be told. His emotions, because the Bible doesn't go into a whole lot of what his emotions are. So I was just imagining what were the emotions. Like he lost everything. He lost his wife. Everything that he had built up, he now had to leave and start anew. And so I wanted to communicate that with people. But at the same time, I think the most important thing is the fact that God is merciful, and he will not punish the righteous with the wicked. And that's what we see in this story, is that God has redeemed the one righteous man and his two daughters. He's redeemed them and brought them out of the land of wickedness and saved them. So it's really helpful to know that God is a merciful God, a God who loves us and is merciful to us even in the midst of us being tormented in the lawless atmosphere if we find ourselves in that type of place. So yeah, it shows the mercy of God, and so I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this tonight, is realizing that God is indeed merciful, and he's a good God.
Question.
Yep.
Can we hear it again?
Can we hear it again? Yes. I would be happy to play it for you guys again. Now I'm safe. I sit at the city gate. I've got a wife and a family, and I'm playing it safe. Two men came to see me, said I had to go away. Said the righteous are no more, said I could not stay away. Oh, flee from this place, safe, you aren't safe to remain. Protect your wife, your daughters, your family, get them awake and escape through the valley. Stop with your lingering and contrite reasoning, get to the hills. I know I must go, but my heart's held captive. My roots were deep and the land was attractive. Now I am running, my family's coming, but my wife looked back. Lost all that did
and the name I made. All my possessions are swept away. They are all gone away. Oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. I was distressed by the godless, from the filth of the lawless men. But I was rescued by the Holy One, and now I'm safe away. Oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Oh, saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Gone away. Oh, I fled from this place, but saved, I am saved from what's laid waste. Oh, saved, I am saved from what's laid waste.
Well, thank you guys all so much. Thank you for listening to it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you just joining with me and celebrating this milestone, a new song to release. Thank you guys online as well. We're going to do a couple, probably two more questions, I think. One's from Kenji, and he says, "What's next from Maestro Daniel? Any sneak peeks?" Yes, there is a new song coming out that I'm in the process of working on, entitled Yet I'll Rejoice. And I've already started the process, as you can see. I have my my chord chart mostly finalized, although sometimes extra stuff gets added in because, you know, that's part of the creative process. But yeah, the next song is Yet I'll Rejoice. It's based off of Habakkuk's story. So it's really interesting. It's about impending judgment, and Habakkuk is pleading with God, saying, how long are you, like, how long is injustice going to last? And God responds, "I'm going to do something that you wouldn't even fathom if I told you. I'm bringing a nation more wicked than yourselves to bring you into exile." And so it's not what Habakkuk imagined was going to happen, but his response is incredible. He says, "Yet I'll rejoice in the Lord, the God of my salvation. I'll take joy in the King of my strength." Well, this might be summarizing. It's the lyrics of the song. "He makes my feet like the deer. I tread on high places with the horn of my deliverance." So he still has an attitude, and he says, I'll be patient and wait for God to bring justice to the wicked people who have not yet even attacked us and brought us into exile. So yeah, I think that's going to be a really cool song. Again, it's a good story that I think all of us can learn from, including myself, that we can rejoice even in difficult circumstances and, you know, bleak circumstances. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. And then Jennifer had a question: how can we find out about future song releases, dates, and live streams? You can always look at my Facebook, my Instagram. I post stories to there pretty regularly. I make posts on Facebook. My YouTube channel, you can check that out, and I'll probably be creating an email list as well. So stay tuned for that update. That'll, I think, help facilitate letting the community know when a new song is coming out. So yeah, those are some ways that you can stay connected. So yeah. You can also go to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe. So that'll definitely help. And yeah, thank you guys again so much. I think we're gonna end this live stream, but it has been wonderful. Thank you everybody online for participating, and I appreciate all your questions. We had a really fun time, and to the people in person, I'm so glad you guys could be here. Thank you again for coming. This has been wonderful. And yeah, let's close with this comment from Michelle Jakewith, my mother-in-law. It takes courage to listen to God and do what he says to do. We'll be praying for you. And so yeah, I think that's good for all of us, including myself. It's hard to listen to God and do what he says. So yeah, but I wish that for everybody here and online, that you can hear the voice of God and follow in his path, because there's nothing more important. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you, Dr. Miller, for coming. You can always tune in and see the live stream on YouTube. I'll be posting it there. But yeah, thank you all, and have a great night.